welcome to this week's Connected Cornerstone podcast. This week I'm filming from my house. So you get invited into my living room to hear a little bit about what's going on at Cornerstone. When we started this, our goal, our plan was to give you a way to stay connected during the week. You get to hear updates on Sunday morning and announcements and things like that as part of our message. And even though it's online, you still have a little bit of connection on Sundays. But what happens during the week when we're not meeting and when it's really hard to gather in person? So that's the goal of this, is to give you a way just to know what's going on at church. And so I want to thank you for taking time to listen in, to watch, to join in today. And I want to give you a few updates about what we're doing right now at Cornerstone. A few things that we can talk about. We want to talk about the new building. We want to talk about our reopening plans, and want to talk about a new opportunity to serve and help our community in a time of need. So I'll kind of start with just an update on our church building, because so many of you, if you've driven by the church, you're seeing it and it looks so good and it's taking shape, and we really appreciate everybody putting time and helping with that. This week the electricians are finishing up. Next week we'll start getting all the plumbing done. So it's really taken shape, and so we're kind of putting the finishing touches on the building. It's so exciting to see everything come together. The kitchen countertops are being installed. We're putting in a playground fence. So you'll see the area for the playground. Last week we were able to seed some grass, and with all this rain we're getting, actually it's raining right now as I'm recording this. Hopefully that'll help the grass to grow and start sprouting up. So we're just excited about that. And it's such a strange time right now with all the social distancing that's going on, that we're not able to be there in person and use it quite yet. But when we are able to start having larger gatherings, we're going to be ready for it. So thanks for your support, for your generosity. Thanks for all the help, for the people who have been pitching in and helping with the service projects on that. So it really is coming along quite nicely. So that kind of brings us to something that we announced kind of this week and just talking about, and it's the starting of a reopening plan. So if you've been watching the governor's updates last Friday, it kind of surprised quite a few people, because earlier he had said churches would become later in the phasing process, but he announced that churches could actually reopen as part of phase one, and phase one officially starts May 15th, which is this week. So that kind of caught us by surprise a little bit, because we were expecting it to be later. But at the same time, this is what we've been talking and preparing and planning about. Now, here's the issue with that. We could open this week at 50% capacity and do church like normal. But the problem is that we're right now in the midst of kind of a growing, growing crisis of cases right here in Galax. So for us, we're looking at this right now and saying it would have been safer 2 or 3, 4 or 5 weeks ago. Right now is probably the most dangerous time for our community because of the spread of COVID-19. So because of that, we are looking at this and saying it's not safe, it's not prudent, it's not wise. We don't want to put you in a position where you would not be safe. We don't want to open up church and have people get sick. We don't want that responsibility on us. We don't want. We just want to do everything we can to help protect you, to help prevent the spread of this disease in our community. So we just didn't feel it would be wise to open up at this time. And looking at it, we're thinking the earliest we could open would be May 31st, which is a few weeks out. If the cases continue to increase, I'll tell you now that we'll push that on out. That's not a firm date. We're just saying the earliest that we would be ready to have everything in place to open would be May 31st. And so here's what we would like to ask you to do. One is pray. Pray for our community. Pray for our leadership, that we would have the wisdom, discernment we need to make the right decision here. And the reality is, this is tough. There's no judgment from us on other churches who are meeting. It just, when we look at this, we've got some unique challenges with our building. We're in a pretty tight space. So one of the things we're going to do, and actually, in fact, we've already done it. We've removed every other row. So we've got some built-in spacing in the church. We're going to do some short, when we go back to meeting in person live, we'll have 2 services back to the 9:15 and 11. The services are going to be a little shorter. We're going to shoot for an hour. And the reason why we're going to shorten our services a little bit is to give us time in between services to clean. So we'll have to ask everybody to, I love everybody hanging out and talking and sharing, but we're going to have to kind of clear the church and clean and take a few minutes to clean before we can allow the second service to come in. So there's just so many little things like that we're working on the details right now. But I want you to be assured, we had an administrative team meeting last night. We had an elders team meeting last night. We're working on this. Our staff, we had a meeting today. We're kind of going through all the different things that need to happen in order so that we can meet again. So whether it's May 31st or a few weeks later or even a month later, when we feel the time is right, we're going to be ready to meet. So I just want you to know that this is not a decision we take lightly, but at the same time, we know that whenever we start meeting back together, there is going to be risk. There's going to be some risk whenever we meet, whatever we do. So we understand that. So the people who are kind of part of the at-risk population, if you have underlying medical conditions, if you are elderly, there's just all these different, if you're worried, we don't want you to feel pressured to come back and worship. In fact, we would encourage you to continue to stay home and watch and connect online. I'm so thankful that we have the technology that we can do church online. We had that all already set up, and it's really, it's not the same. I understand completely. But at the same time, I'm glad that we have that. We have that ability to connect and to worship together each week. So all of this, we're looking at other things too. When we start back our Cornerstone Kids ministry, we'll take a break from that for a few, at least for a while, until we can feel that we can provide a safe environment for the kids. So you can bring your kids. You can bring kids to church when we do reopen. We just ask that they stay with you. They can't roam about because we're going to have to maintain social distancing inside the church. So if you can do that, if you want to kind of split up with the 2 services, one parent come one service and the other stay home with the kids and then swap out, that's fine too. We just want to. This is just going to be different for a while, and we've said throughout this whole process that the church is far more than a building. It's not just what happens on Sunday morning. It's really about the group of believers that live out their faith every day of the week. So we've got to remember that. We've got to hold on to that and know that God has blessed us. He's taken care of us. And so when we do meet, it's going to be a celebration. In the meantime, we're going to keep celebrating. We're going to keep sharing the gospel. We're going to keep serving our community for Christ. One of the other things I'll mention, and we do have an opportunity to pitch in and help our community, and you'll hear a little bit more about this over the next few days. We're working with the soup kitchen, God's Storehouse soup kitchen, and the police department to get some supplies together for people who have been affected by COVID-19. And we're talking about cleaning supplies, some food supplies. You'll be seeing a list of what we can use for that. The police department is actually going to be delivering these supplies to people in need. So we're just going to help in the collection process. But we know our community has been hit hard with this virus in the last few days. Every day that the numbers have increased. I looked today, the number is at 65 cases in Galax. For a size community like ours, that's a lot. And we know that, and it's a little bit scary at the same time. And we have a choice to face when we look at statistics like that. Are we going to respond in fear? And what fear does is it tells us, it makes us fearful of going out and doing anything. It makes us fearful. It just makes us constantly worried. It makes us anxious. And we know that those things don't come from God. So instead of being fearful, here's what we've got to do. We've got to lean into God, and we've got to trust Him. And we've got to allow Him to empower us to serve. We can do that. We can be cautious. We can do everything we can to prevent the spread, but we cannot live our lives in fear. And so what fear does, that fear leads us to become angry. It leads us to blame. And I'll just tell you, one of the things that I've seen over this last week is Facebook and other social media. It's not been good. I don't know if you've noticed this, but what I've seen is a lot of people blaming the people who have the virus. And let's be honest, a lot of the people who've gotten the virus have gotten it because they were working, because they didn't have a job that they could stay home from. They were, they didn't have the right protective equipment at work even maybe to receive it. It's not someone's fault that they got a virus. So let's quit the victim shaming. I've seen way too much of that. And instead of trying to blame someone and trying to be angry and trying to condemn people who have it and bash our community, let's work together to show the compassion of Christ in a time of need. Galatians 6:10 says, whenever we have an opportunity, we should use it to do good, and especially those in the community of faith. And because of that, we've got to look at this. And instead of being fearful, instead of being mad, instead of blaming, let's look for ways that we can be part of the solution. Let's look for ways that we can work together to share the love of Christ, to share the hope of Christ to community that really needs it. This collecting supplies is just one way. When we've collected money for the meals, that's another way. And we'll use some of those meals in this instance to provide help for the families who have been affected by COVID-19. But I want you to know that as a church, let's use this to draw closer together. Let's use this to kind of lean into God's strength and His peace to empower us to continue pressing forward. Now, this is a scary time. I understand that. But perfect love casts out all fear. And so let's remember that's really what's going to conquer this virus. It's love. It's the love of Christ that we have, and we can love because He first loved us. So I just want to encourage you today. If you're suffering from anxiety, if you're suffering from fear, if this is really getting to you, if you're feeling isolated, here's what I want you to know. That you have hope in Christ. And you can have the support of the believers in this church. All you got to do is pick up the phone, call any of our leaders, call us, reach out to your friends, the people you're connected with, and we will get through this together. Now, it won't be long till we can meet back together. And again, we'll give you more updates as we go forward, just so you can know about that. But I am proud of everyone, and I'm looking forward to the time we can meet in person. But until then, we're going to keep pressing forward. I ask for your continued prayers for us and our family. We're getting ready for a big wedding. And my daughter Emma is getting married in a week and a half. So we're kind of getting prepared for that. And we're just trying to all stay as safe as we can and between now and then. But I'm telling you, this has affected so many people in different ways. We're also working. You'll be seeing some posts on our Cornerstone Facebook page and website about our graduating seniors. So we're working on that. we're kind of taking the lead and helping organize an online baccalaureate service for our high school seniors in Galax this year. So you'll be hearing about that. There's all sorts of things going on right now. So just because we're not meeting in person doesn't mean things have slowed down. They just look a little different right now. So I just want to take this time. Thank you for joining in. If you've got any questions, be sure to let us know. You can go to mycornerstone.fyi. That's your place to stay connected. That's your place to get the info about Cornerstone. That's how you can continue to know what's happening, how you can sign up. We've got a place on there right now that you can take a survey. If you go to mycornerstone.fyi, you can go there and it has a reopening update. Click on that. There's a place to survey. We want to hear from you. And it just got some basic questions about reopening, about what you're comfortable with. This kind of helps us to know how soon we can reopen and what that's going to look like. We're looking at some things maybe where you can kind of reserve a spot in the main worship center, just so since we're going to have to control the number of people there, we may have to do that. We may have some overflow rooms. We're just working through all those details right now. But we would really appreciate if you took some time to fill out that survey. And as always, if you have any prayer requests, any needs, let us know. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Until next week, God bless.